So guys, we're going to start today. Good evening and welcome to another edition of our second series of shows, which is on wisdom wellness. Let food be thy medicine. And our guest today is Tyrell Ferdinand. Welcome, Tyrell. It's great to have you on. So the doctor of the future will no longer treat the human frame with drugs, but rather cure and prevent disease with nutrition. This is a quote by Thomas Edison. So this personally is a very interesting subject to me. As an athlete, I have to be careful about what I take into my body, as it can have a detrimental effect on my performance. So without, there's so many questions, and I think all of us on the panel have so many questions for you, Tyrell. I would like to invite our panel one by one to give us a few of their thoughts before Selvi introduces Tyrell to the rest of the guests online. Selvi, would you like to start?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, welcome Tyrell. We're really happy to have you here today, and as food as medicine. Right, this is a philosophy that has roots in HIV epidemic that began in 1980s in California. But this knowledge and the practice of food as medicine has been with us over 4,000 to 5,000 years with Ayurveda and Siddha medicine. But somehow on the way we've lost touch with it. And we are making decisions about food, which is so important, without awareness. Now, that's where the food as medicine comes in. If we do make our choices in food with awareness, we can prevent and cure illnesses in our body. We can stop the desertification of the soil, which is happening at an alarming rate in the world today. Almost 60% of the topsoil has been desertified in the world. And we can also improve the carbon absorption by the earth and the trees and the plants, if we do make the right decisions about food. So you see how important the decisions we make about food is. It just, how we eat affects the earth and it affects the climate. So we need to make really, really very intelligent decisions about food and how we eat, when we eat, and what we eat. So I'm glad that Tyrell is here today to give us throw some light on this subject. But before we go on to Tyrell, I'd just like to make a little bit of a awareness on what is happening in terms of poor nutrition in this world. Poor nutrition is responsible for 11 million global deaths from ailments such as cardiovascular disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, and this is according to a study published in Lancet in 2019. Now, in addition to these, what about the costs that we are spending on healthcare because of wrong eating? 75% of the healthcare costs in the USA goes towards chronic diseases that are largely preventable. That is almost $3 trillion a year is going on chronic, on treating chronic ailments. Right. In 2016, indirect costs plus direct costs of 1.7 trillion was spent on healthcare to treat obesity crisis, salt, sugar, fat, and processed foods in America that contributes to obesity. And the nation's high rates of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. So I have heard that food can resist and fight the diseases such as diabetes, vision loss, and heart disease, and obesity, and dementia. So food gives you the ability to keep the diseases at bay. So let's go to the other members and see what they
Yes.
have to say about this. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Selvi. Yes, so curious about this particular subject today. Fazana, can you?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it is a very interesting subject, and Selvi spoke about the non-communicable diseases. I would like to talk about children. You know, two of the most important indicators when you measure children's growth is, you know, stunting and wasting. Stunting is when you're too short for your age, and wasting is when you're too thin for your height. And over 149 million children under 5 are estimated to be stunted, and about 45 million are estimated to be wasted. So, you know, 45% of all global deaths of children under 5 is due to malnutrition. So again, you know, apart from the non-communicable diseases, which is due to, you know, lifestyle and bad food practice, a lot of it affects the children as well in terms of nutrition. So malnutrition is a huge problem, and, you know, the costs to governments, the cost to the country. So we really have to have a huge dialogue with politicians and policymakers on, you know, changing people's behavior in terms of nutrition. So to me, it's actually a behavior change issue as well, in a huge way, because it's not just affordability or unavailability of food. It's about how you react to it and how you do what you do. Yeah, thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Fazana. Just want to ask the others to please, our viewers to please, you know, mute yourselves and also shut your video down if you don't mind, because it can be a little bit disturbing. Thank you. Soraya, Soraya, could you, tell us what you think?
Yes, thank you so much, Carol. And may I also invite and thank everybody who was on this call today. You know, I want to begin with this quote by Lord Buddha, who said, "Every human being is the author of his own health or disease." Now, that's a very, very deep and a comment that we must take very seriously. Sylvie just said we have to make those important decisions. And I think this program today is all about us taking on our responsibility more seriously, because today disease, I mean, look at where we are with the diseases like diabetes. Is it a pandemic? For instance, I'm aware the number of people with diabetes rose from 108 million in 1980 to 422 million in 2014. Now, this is a pretty serious number. And is this number rising more in low and middle income countries than high income countries? I don't think so. I think even high income countries in the United States, there was another statistic that said in 2019, an estimated 1.5 million deaths were directly caused by diabetes. More than 200,000 cases in the United States. And we should all be running to this information to explore how food can be used as a cure for diseases like diabetes. So as we move along, we will get into that. But again, going back to my earlier quote where the Buddha said, we are the author of our own health and disease. And I just want to remind our listeners that you are the author of everything. And in keeping with the vision of this program, please consider yourself as the author of a peace builder in your nation. Please consider yourself as a person who will work towards communal harmony in your nation. Please consider yourself as the author of who will work towards making our country stronger, better, and in every way being a very productive citizen. And that is one of our goals in this program. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Soraya. So without taking up so much time, let's ask Selvi. Could you please introduce our guest today, guest speaker? Unmute yourself, Selvi. Selvi.
Right. Tyrrell Ferdinands. He's a very long-term friend of mine and a professional whom I have known while I was working in the NGO field. But today he is a practitioner of functional and integrative medicine, and he utilizes food as medicine for delivering drugless therapies to patients. His work on using food as medicine is complemented by clinical hypnotherapy and integrative psychotherapy with a specialization in emotional freedom technique in rendering chemical-free remedies. He focuses on chronic diseases, disease prevention, promoting longevity and anti-aging. He has a practice in Colombo, the details of which you can have at the end of the program if you wish so. His work in these areas has been enabled by training in advanced applications in medical practice in the USA, studies in empowered oncology at Society of Integrative Oncology in the USA, and empowered oncology mechanism to clinical practice in Australia and the Australian Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. He currently serves as the chairman of the Institution of Complementary and Alternative Medicine. He is also proficient in homeopathy. Tyrrell Ferdinands.
Over to you, Tyrrell. You can go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sylvia, and thank you, everybody. I feel privileged to be able to share these thoughts with this group of you. And so today we will try to talk about food, disease, and illness, and good health. I will start with the role of food and then go to health and disease and touch on some free medicines maybe that are available to all of us. Now, we have to remember that human beings have remained the same for millions of years. Human beings have been on this earth for millions of years and we have remained the same. Our DNA and RNA remains exactly the same the way it was millions of years ago. Nothing has changed. And just like the ancient human beings millions of years ago, we still need food, we need water, we need sleep, we need to go to the toilet. Maybe our toilets are much more luxurious and better, but we go and do this very same thing that human beings did millions of years ago. There is lust, there is jealousy, there is love, everything to the same degree. Sex is important. Nothing has really changed in the human being, in the makeup of the human being, whether it's physiological or whether it is mental and emotional. It is the same issues that continue to affect us, play in our minds, in our emotions. So what then has changed? I would suggest that it is food that has changed. You see, in the 1940s, food moved from the kitchen to the lab, mainly in the USA and then later in Europe. Food moved from the kitchen to the lab and we started getting processed foods. But in this process of food moving from the kitchen to the lab, we lost hundreds of micronutrients, which are vital for many functions in the body and in the mind. We lost hundreds of micronutrients. And as the end result of this, the economy and society accepting food that is processed through a lab, the final result is that the rich are overfed and undernourished, and the poor are underfed and undernourished. Both rich and poor end up in the same undernourished state, the rich being overfed and undernourished, and the poor being undernourished and underfed and undernourished. No change. So when food is right, medicine is of no need. You don't need medicines if your food is right. But when food is wrong, medicine is of no use. You can take all the medicines under the sun. If your food is wrong, the medicines won't work. Could be a strong allopathic drug, It could be a modern breakthrough drug. But if your food is wrong, no medicine is going to work. So what are the criteria we should apply when selecting food for us to eat? There are 3 criteria that one needs to apply. You need to always buy and eat fresh food. You need to eat local food. And it is best to eat seasonal food. Why? Fresh food, because it has life in it. It's not being processed into with 101 other chemicals. It is not a what we call a food-like item. Anything packed in plastic and on a rack is generally, on a shelf is generally food-like substance, not food. So try and much as possible get fresh food. Local food. Why? Because if any food grows within your locality, maybe within a 10 to 20 kilometer radius from where you live, if the food had grown successfully and thrived to come to the point of being harvested, you consuming that will help you also to thrive in that same environment. So it is important that you eat local food. Even better if it is grown in your garden, but at least within a 10 to 20 mile radius from where you live. Thirdly, for the same reason, seasonal. Because if a food thrives in the rainy season, you consuming that will help you to also thrive in the rainy season. And if it's in a dry season, what is harvested in the dry season, helps you to deal with the heat. Your body, your organs all adapt accordingly, because food and natural substances, when used for health, work as what we call adaptogens. A drug, a pharmaceutical-based, chemical-based drug will target a particular action in the body or the mind. Natural elements use natural things work as adaptogens, helping the body to adapt to either whatever challenge that comes your way. So the advantage of using natural substances and food as a medicine is that you have the advantage of them being adaptogens. There are certain foods that if you have diarrhea, it stops the diarrhea. But if you are constipated, it clears the constipation. The same food, the same type of food. So the criteria for food should be eat fresh food, local food, seasonal food. And now when I talk about local food and seasonal food, see, food is information. It is instructions. It is code for our genes. The genes work depending on the input given to the gene. And 90% of what happens to a human being, to us, can be controlled through food and what we do and what we don't do. So what you eat and drink today will walk and talk tomorrow. That is the summary of that whole thing. What you eat and drink today will walk and talk tomorrow. Food is the code for your genes. Genes respond to outside stimulation, the epigenetics of it. So remember, 90% can be controlled. And one way that human beings at certain times of our history identified what foods to use for what comes from European herbalism, the doctrine of signatures, where the shape of the plant mimics a shape of a human organ or some part of human tissue. And these plants can be used specifically for those organs and tissues. So for instance, carrots, we have been told down the centuries that carrots are good for the eye. A side section of the carrot, side section of the carrot is looks exactly like a retina of the eye. Kiwi fruit is very good for the kidneys, just as much as kidney beans are. Kiwi fruit, you cut a side section of the kiwi fruit, is the exact side section of the human kidney. Walnuts are very good for the brain. The side section of the walnut is an exact side section of the human brain. Olives for the ovaries, figs for the testes, avocado for the uterus. The list goes on. So nature shows us by the very shape as to what helps which organ and which tissue and what process in the body can be helped. These can be used as food to help to prevent medicine and to maintain good health. But they can be used as medicine when the or just eat it when you are sick. There is a way of delivering. What illness is, dis-ease. If you are not at ease, you are diseased. All you need to be is at ease. If you are at ease and in balance, you have no disease. And I would urge you to look at illness and good health through the paradigm of toxicity and depletion. This is where food works as a medicine best. Remember, we are toxic and depleted. We are collecting certain things which we should excrete, so we are toxic. At the same time, we are excreting certain things which we should store, like certain minerals. So we are depleted, toxicity and depletion. So if we detox and supplement, you can restore the balance. But here I want to go to a slightly greater detail about illness and health, touching on very briefly on a very complicated subject of the germ theory and the terrain theory. See, Louis Pasteur came up with the germ theory, and with that, it was very easy for human beings to start blaming the outside germ for everything that goes wrong with us. It's an easy way, a cop-out, not to take responsibility for your own health. Even today, as we blame the virus, you always blame an external organism. So the germ theory says disease arises from outside the body, attacks the body, and the body has to defend. According to the environment. If the environment is conducive, you will get sick. And the closest analogy is a dengue mosquito. Might bite 5 people in a single room. All 5 will be bitten by a dengue mosquito. Only 1 person gets the disease. So it's really not the mosquito.
Carol, is it just me or is the video, the audio?
Which enables the dengue.
Your audio, Carol. We can't hear you.
I think there is a signal drop at Tiral's. I wonder where your Wi-Fi is, because from time to time it kind of drops.
Okay.
That's right.
But can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, right. So the germ theory and the terrain theory. So just as much as you see a virus, the terrain theory suggests that it depends on the terrain you allow a microorganism. It's like a stagnant pool. A stagnant pool will allow mosquito larvae to grow and breed mosquitoes. So our body is like a stagnant pool. Again, see through the paradigm of toxicity and depletion. And we are toxic at one hand, we are collecting things which we should excrete, and we are excreting things we should store, so we are depleted. So clean the stagnant pool. And this method, this whole focus on the germ has
Kiral, you're dropping again.
a completely different false. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Kiral, if you switch off your video, your signals might be better. Just try switching off the video. As much as it's not going to be the most pleasant for us. I mean, yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, very much so.
Okay. Yeah. So with the germ theory taking control of our culture and the way we think, we blame the germ. We stop taking responsibility for our own health. So this is the false path that the whole health paradigm has shifted to. We need to take responsibility for ourselves, clean the stagnant pool in our body, and ensure that you don't provide a conducive environment for any of these bacteria or viruses to come in and thrive. So that is the summary about health and disease. Let me touch on 4 free medicines available to us. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Go ahead.
So there are free medicines that we need to take advantage of. The first being sunlight, the second being water, third, movement, fourth, uninterrupted sleep. These are the 4 medicines available to all human beings, without which, if we don't use this, again, there is no point taking all sorts of medicines and gymming endlessly and taking 100 supplements. So sunlight, what does sunlight do? Sunlight helps us metabolize vitamin D. And without vitamin D metabolization, there is no calcium metabolization. And sunlight kills pain, actually. You can use sunlight to kill pain. Get sufficient sunlight, pain in the body goes away. And it sets off a cascading immune response. You take the morning sun, the sun around your eyes, sets off a cascading immune response, which keeps the immune system peak during the day. So that is the first free medicine, sunlight. Second is water.
Tara, can you hear me?
And you need to keep replenishing to detoxify. It controls fluids, it controls minerals. Yes.
Yeah, go
We are
ahead.
losing you. Yeah, we have not heard anything about water. Did you say how much water a day?
Soraya, I
Yes.
think we've lost him for a minute in the sound, actually.
In alkaline balance.
Okay, there he is.
Where you calculate the amount of water. Can you hear me?
No.
Yeah, can
we
you
have
tell us about the water again, please?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the water requirement per person is calculated according to your body weight. Your body weight in kilograms multiplied by 3. So for instance, if someone is 70 kg, multiplied by 3 is 210. That means you need 2.1 liters of water at a minimum per day. And I'm not talking of the green tea everyone. This has to be water.
we can't hear you, Terrell. We lost you totally.
Divided by 100 number of liters. So the water helps to keep your water helps to keep the lymph in a liquid state also, because lymph is key for immunity. And the lymph flows in your body only if you have sufficient water and the lymph is kept in a liquid state. The next is moving the body, movement of body. You don't have to have a strict gym regime for this. Just a brisk walk of 40 minutes a day, 3 to 4 days a week would do. When you move your body, the bending of the joints, the mechanical action of bending of the bones pushes the lymph and keeps the lymph circulating. And then the fourth free medicine is sleep, uninterrupted sleep. Let me simplify this for you and what it does, what sleep does for us. Let me simplify that. There are 3 phases of sleep. The first phase, as soon as you fall asleep, the first 90 to 100 minutes is a detoxifying phase, where the body detoxifies, collects all the toxins of the day, brings it to the liver, which detoxifies, and then sends the waste material to your skin, to the rectum, and to the kidneys to be excreted next day as stools, urine, and sweat. This is the first 90 to 100 minutes. And if you have uninterrupted sleep, as soon as you finish the first 90 minutes, the second 90 minutes is the self-repair mode. The body repairs itself, starting from the soles of your feet, because you lost a few layers of cells in the soles of the feet by walking around. So it repairs the soles of the feet, then the body repairs tissue, muscle, nerve, bone, organ, and bone. Every 30 months, you get a brand new liver. Every single cell is replaced over a 30-month period. So there's a self-repair mode. And at the end of the second 90 minutes of self-repair mode, if you still have uninterrupted sleep, you move into what is called the inspirational phase of sleep. This is where we get all our inspiration, bright ideas. Nothing to do with based on your intelligence, knowledge, or wisdom. Pure inspiration comes in the third phase of inspirational sleep. This is the bright idea that hits you at about 11 in the morning one day, and you wonder, why didn't I think of this 10 years ago? This is the inspired idea. It will come only in the inspired phase of sleep, which is the third 90-minute sleep. Now, if you have interrupted sleep, where you get up and then have to reach out to your phone to check the updates and all of that, then when you fall asleep again, it goes and starts again at the detoxifying mode. So you don't get the full advantage of the self-repair mode, nor of the inspirational phase of the sleep. And brain detox happens only in deep sleep, because brain detox happens when the synovial fluids in your spine pump into the brain, wash the brain, and bring the toxins down. This is how you would prevent Alzheimer's and dementia, and even Parkinson's. So deep sleep, the synovial fluid will wash the unnecessary proteins and toxins and bring it back down into the liver. So important free medicines that we need to take is sunlight, water, moving the body, and uninterrupted sleep. And when it comes to sleep, remember your bedroom has only two purposes it serves. You should not have all your computers and TV and everything on. There are two purposes that the bedroom serves: sleep and sex, nothing else. Clear a room of everything else. Just sleep and sex. It will make a huge difference to the quality of life if you just stick to this. Now, so I have touched on how food, the rich are overfed and undernourished, the poor are underfed and undernourished, and how food moved from the kitchen to the lab. So I would suggest that the challenge we have is to convert our kitchens into a pharmacy. And this is possible. The kitchen can be converted to a pharmacy easily. So let me touch on a few herbs and spices that can actually help you do that.
Yes, that's interesting to hear. Yeah.
So let's say
Go
ginger. So ginger, when you use ginger, remember to always use the skin also. Don't cut the skin away.
Oh.
Because it is the under part of the skin that contains ginger oil. The medicinal value of it. Certain viruses from replication. Hello?
Yes, can you repeat that? You started with the ginger. Could you please repeat that?
Ginger, use the skin also, wash it under running water and rub it with your hand and you get the dirt away. The under part of the skin is important to get the ginger oil out of it, which has the medicinal value. And ginger can stop the replication of certain viruses, especially respiratory viruses. Ginger will stop the replication of respiratory viruses. It can attack very successfully influenza A and the common cold. It's good for nausea. The second is garlic. Garlic reduces inflammation, it fights fungi, it fights viruses, it can fight parasites. And when you are using garlic, it is ideal our food culture and the Italian food culture teaches this. Crush the garlic, don't chop it with a knife. When you chop garlic with a knife, the chemicals released have only an impact on aroma and flavor. When you crush it, the oil also slips. Oregano oil. Oregano is from the family of mint. You can use the oil. It has a very strong antiviral activity through carvacrol. It has an element called carvacrol, which is a high antiviral, has antiviral action. And then the basil leaves, tulsi, increases immunity by increasing the cytokine and immune cell efficiency. And through that, it will mount immune response faster. The tulsi, basil, it has a sedative effect. It's antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal. Turmeric goes beyond nutrition. It is now even in allopathic medicine labeled as a functional food because it performs various other medicinal functions. And so turmeric has become a superfood. It is actually a functional food. And let me explain a small story about the bioavailability of turmeric. Turmeric has been a very powerful agent, Now, but research revealed that curcumin in turmeric, which is understood to be the key element, does not absorb well into the body. The liver detoxifies it immediately. The liver understands it, recognizes it, and identifies it as a toxin and detoxifies it. So bioavailability is very low. 98% of it is detoxified and sent out. And after many years and millions of dollars of research, it was discovered that curcumin will absorb to the body more if it is combined with a lipid, that is a fat, and pepperine. This is after years of research and millions of dollars being sunk into the research. But look at our own food cultures. Look at rasam. Rasam has coconut milk, gives you the lipid. You add pepper, there is pepperine. And in the southern Sri Lankan cuisine, the kirihodda, the coconut milk with the turmeric and the peppercorns going into it. Or you get the peppercorns in your yellow rice. And so our food cultures actually knew what was happening, knew the science behind it. We didn't need millions of dollars of research. The food cultures knew how to interact with food and find how it would work best. So turmeric is a superfood. Then of course we have murunga. The Tambung Hodda uses the murunga bark and black pepper. Black pepper is very, again, with its pepperine, is a very strong standalone herb that you can use for medicine in your kitchen. High antioxidant and anti-inflammatory value. Cumin, the suduru, is very high, is selenium rich, and therefore extremely good for thyroid issues, for the messaging between the hypothalamus and the thyroid. So when people have thyroxine deficiencies, people assume the thyroid gland cannot produce anymore, is not producing thyroxine anymore. That is not true. According to our medicine, the hypothalamus in the brain is sending a message to the thyroid to produce thyroxine, but the message is not coming across, it's not being received, or it is not being understood by the thyroid correctly, and therefore it does not. Selenium, and that happens simply because you are deficient in selenium. There is no other reason. You are just selenium deficient. And suduru, the cumin, has that. It also fights bacteria and parasites. It has anti-cancer properties and can be used easily for diarrhea. Then there is, of course, coriander. Coriander lowers blood pressure. It helps in heart, brain, and gut health. And if you can roast coriander seeds and grind them into like black coffee and make it like black coffee, it is extremely good for period pains. Works immediately. So coriander. So these are a few things that can be used in the kitchen and where you can convert your kitchen to a pharmacy. So I think I will end there for the moment.
Yes. Tiril, there's so much information you're sharing with us, and we have, while you're talking, we have so many questions we feel we need to ask you. Before I pass you to my colleagues here, I want to ask you one thing that you stated. You said the liver, you get a new liver every so often, right? But you know, when you go to a doctor, they say you have a fatty liver, and everybody's struggling to correct this fatty liver syndrome. But if you get a new liver, what's the whole purpose of you know, fighting this fatty liver issue? If you can just answer that, and then I will ask the panel to direct their questions to you.
Fatty liver is something very easily treated successfully using food as a medicine. That is how I use food as a medicine is that it goes beyond diet. Simply start, I don't say eat this and don't eat that. It's not diet. I go beyond that by giving certain juices in combinations where the juice changes the biochemistry in the body and works as a medicine directly. That is the nutritive medicine that we practice in Sri Lanka. So the fatty liver can be easily, with a liver gallbladder cleanse, can generally easily be handled. And all you need to give your body is time and space. With that uninterrupted sleep, the self-repair mode, all of that. The liver replaces, every single cell is replaced in over a 30-month period. Just 30 months and a whole liver is, of course, if it has gone into advanced cirrhosis, there are much more serious interventions we have to make, where the liver tissue has now become like very fibrous.
Yeah.
Cirrhosis is a different matter, but fatty liver is not a thing that one needs to worry. It is easily reversed through nutritive medicine.
That's good to hear. I'm going to direct you to Soraya. Soraya, I can see you popping in your seat.
I mean, I have so many questions. Thank you so much for the information you have shared. I mean, I'm so sorry the reception was poor and we had to really lose some of very important things you said. Now, I myself went to the doctor yesterday. She didn't ask me if I slept, if I had sunlight, if I had water, and if I had movement. The first question she asked me was, are you taking the medication? So because I am a mindful, I have this mindful practice of what goes in, you said walks out tomorrow. I had a different kind of conversation with her. So but the question I have two questions, Terrell. One is, this wealth of information is not trickling down to our people. Over 90 million doctors in the world. How can we share this education? And second, you mentioned some foodstuffs like garlic, ginger, cumin. These are all my go-to superfoods too. How do I take them? I mean, garlic, I can't eat it raw. It's going to cause a lot of discomfort. Is it okay to cook it? And if so, how much of cooking is allowed and is good that will retain the nutritive value of the food? So there are two questions. How do we get this information across? And two, how much do you cook or not cook these foods that you mentioned? Thank you.
How do we get this information across is a big thing, which is how it can be handled, I don't know, because medical college doesn't teach more than 5 or 6 days on nutrition. Over a 5-year course of training for an MBBS doctor, they don't get more than 4 or 5 days of nutrition training. So, but it is changing. For instance, Sri Lanka's Ministry of Health is one of the few in the world which is Ministry of Health and Nutrition. So at a policy level, at least there is a nod, which can be, there is at least a nod, the way they name it itself. So there are openings, and we can hold people to what they claim to be there. I mean, so there are openings. As a naturopath, as a practitioner of nutritive medicine, what I do is a normal consultation takes an hour, 1 hour. And at least out of half of that 30 minutes and raising awareness, telling people how these are. And I all have a lot of doctors who come, their families come to me, and then later they come to me. So we talk about this. And once you start talking about it, but to increase it, I understand your question. So what we need is to get it to a critical mass in society. For the moment, it is fringe activity. It is fringe activity.
You.
Now,
Thank
in
you.
schools, there are ways we could start thinking. There's one good practice in some schools in Sri Lanka where they have what they call the Osu Uyana. The children grow a small area of the school premises with medicinal plants. And you get all these herbs growing. There are some schools. So you can encourage that in schools.
That's
really
a whole process. Yeah, sorry to pop in. I agree with you. I mean, I think we had to start with the kids. That's a great idea. I want to ask a couple more questions because we are actually this hour is moving too fast for my liking. So Fazana, you have a question I can see. Could you just
Yeah.
go ahead?
Chiral, I just want to know how any food that can support stress, because stress inhibits and interferes in every aspect of our lives. And how does one deal with it from a healthy diet point of view? And I think, Carol, there are 2 or 3 questions from our listeners which you should take after that.
Okay, so stress is essentially stress. The main driver of stress is your gut. So gut health is very important. 3 reasons why the gut is important. Firstly, even if you have a daily bowel movement, about 5% never leaves you. It's impacted feces against the gut wall. And when it blocks the first layer of cell, is the foundation of your immune system. Immunity, the immune system's foundation lies in the first layer of cells in the cell in the gut. And this is now clouded. So we need to clean the gut. Secondly, there is the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. I'm simplifying here. Bad bacteria has taken over. So we need to do colon cleanse once in a way to help restore the power balance between the two. Thirdly, most importantly, there is a nerve called the vagus nerve, 10th cranial nerve. It starts in the gut, ends in the brain. On the way, it touches every single organ. And our type of medicine, the research has proved that 90% of the signaling on the vagus nerve, on the 10th cranial nerve, 90% of the signal, the gut is signaling your brain. The brain is not signaling your gut. Gut feeling, the whole thing called gut feeling. How do you feel it in the gut? You feel it in your gut. That is where that comes from. In Sinhala, they say bokken danuna.
Right. So, Chiral, I have some questions from
stress and all comes is from the gut physiologically. Right?
Yeah.
The rest are coping mechanisms, memory consolidation, which are simple things which can be worked out through certain exercises, mind-body exercises.
Tina, sorry to butt in, but I have a couple of questions for you from our viewers. Dinali wants to know whether coconut oil can act as a lipid for turmeric.
Can act as a
lipid for turmeric bioavailability.
Yes, of course. Yeah, you use now in the Kiriyodi, we use the coconut milk. It turns into oil when you boil it. Coconut oil on its own has some very strong properties. We use it for Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, sometimes get them to drink coconut oil.
Right.
It's so potent.
Right.
But it doesn't not be bleached, it should not be cleansed, it should be just a normal.
Sorry. Yes, we have another question asking whether you can, which form you could use cumin in any particular form.
Not really.
For the selenium, right?
When we give it as a medicine, we give it in certain juices and concoctions.
Right.
But you can use it in your normal food paste, grind it into a paste.
Right.
And use it in curries and stuff like that.
Right.
Grind it into a paste and use it.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't touch on the garlic, Soraya. So garlic, when patients come to me, the first 3 juices I give for the first 3 days is celery and garlic. Raw garlic blended with celery, and you drink it in the morning on an empty stomach. I can see the face on some.
It's kind of harsh still.
Yeah, but I tell you, in 3 days, it changes your biochemistry and you don't know what has hit you.
How many pods of garlic, Terrell? How many pods of garlic?
So just for 3 days, everybody try this. Depending on your body weight, say if you are 75 kilograms in weight, buy 75 grams of celery. Cut it into 3 to be used for 3 days. How you cut the celery is very important. You cut it lengthwise. So that all 3 days you get upper root, stem and leaf, whole plant, wide spectrum. Everything in the plant gets into it. Every morning, take one of these pieces, chop it fine like the local mallung, because celery is very fibrous and you don't want it in a blender for it to come with fiber ball. Chop it fine and put it into a mixer blender. Add one small clove of garlic, just one clove, which you crush, as I explained earlier. Don't chop it with a knife, because if you chop it with a knife, only aroma and flavor is released. Crush it, put it in, put about 1/3 to half a glass of water, blend it extra, get rid of the foam on top, which can be disgusting, and drink it without straining it. You can't make and keep this juice. It oxidizes very fast within a few minutes and loses its efficacy. So drink it unstrained, drink it in the morning on an empty stomach and thank me for it after that.
So this is for your gut, right?
No, this is overall for acid alkaline bath. This is a part of a general cleanse.
Right.
Gut, you have to
So-
take a little more trouble of running to the toilet many times on one day.
I know.
But you
Thanks.
can still
Is
use
there
food for
something?
that.
Is there something in particular for the gut, to clear the gut? Because a lot of people have gastritis, etc., etc.
Gastritis can't be treated by dealing with the gut alone. You have to address the gut and then you have to do the liver gallbladder, because bile from the gallbladder, the quantity is insufficient or the quality is low, and it does not digest, because bile is like soap for the fat that we eat. So if the bile quantity is insufficient or the quality is low, your fat does not get digested. So you need to do a liver gallbladder cleanse also, and increase the quality of the bile production.
Right. Right. So I'm going to go to Selvi because, sorry?
Yes.
Is there a daily detoxer? I mean, you spoke highly about detoxing and deficiency, and is there a daily detoxer?
Well, it's difficult to generalize, Soraya, because
Yeah.
our type of medicine, we tend to individualize it so much.
Soraya, I think we need to read more about this or go to see it here to get this more information. I think Selvi is also popping, waiting to ask a
Cyril,
question
I think
before
we need to
wind
have
up.
him back. We need to have
Yes.
Cyril back, definitely.
Cyril,
This is
Exactly.
incredible information.
I'd like to ask two very short questions. One is that you really rightly pointed out that immunity, which is a great defense we have against diseases, and the immunity against diseases are controlled by angiogenesis, stem cells, microbiome, and DNA in our immune system. Now, how do we eat to activate these defenses in such a way that we have a healthy body and a healthy mind? Secondly, you also mentioned that for Alzheimer's, coconut oil is good. We need to know what kind of food we should eat to prevent dementia and Alzheimer's.
Well, dementia, Alzheimer's, then there's Parkinson's also that comes in that lot. So Alzheimer's tends to be, and dementia tends to be, a lack of uninterrupted sleep. This is what leads you to this thing. More than food, it's not only what you eat, but what you do and don't do also. Because in Alzheimer's, your brain cells start to shrivel and dry up. In Parkinson's, it's a deficiency of dopamine. So there is the dopamine factor which is low. So there are build up which help the body produce more dopamine is tyrosine. You get this from almonds, from walnuts, from avocados. Those will definitely help. And so even stress, to the earlier question, I think of Farzana, was that things like avocado, for instance, are extremely good for the mind. And but to get back to immunity, your main question of immunity, whatever it is, angiogenesis, stem cells, microbiome, the DNA, your genes, whatever is responsible for mounting the immune response in the body, all those, as I said earlier, 90% of this is activated by what you eat and what you do and don't do. What you do in terms of the 4 free medicines, and what you eat and don't eat, that will activate. Food is the code. Food is information, it is instruction to genes to work. For instance, vitamin D modifies and activates 2000 genes in your body, vitamin D. And every other known person is now vitamin D deficient, right? So, but how can we activate our immune system? I call this the A, B, C, D and Z of immunity, which you can do at home mostly. Vitamins A, B, C and D and Z for zinc. And this is very important in times of COVID, especially. Vitamin A, which you can get from fish oil, from eggs, from yellow foods, from milk and from dark greens. Vitamin A, what does it do? It protects the structural integrity of the cells. So which is COVID, the COVID virus, a virus we know has no life of its own. Bacteria has a life of its own and works and attacks outside the cells. Viruses don't have a life of their own. They are dead material. They get a life only once they enter a human cell. So vitamin A maintains the structural integrity of our cells, and vitamin A increases the production of immune cells, and carotenoids lead to the production of vitamin A. So you need vitamin A to maintain the structural integrity of your cells, vitamin B to maintain a healthy immune response, and it protects cells from damage, oxidative damage, vitamin B. That you get from grains, from rice, from dark leaves, meat, beans, seeds, and nuts. Then there's vitamin C, which overall improves the body's antiviral function, and it is essential for the production of white blood cells and the antibodies which you require. Without vitamin C, you can't produce white blood cells and antibodies. Vitamin C also improves oxygen saturation, it treats acute respiratory distress, and increases collagen production. You can get this from bell peppers, and kiwi is the greatest form of vitamin C. The highest concentration is in bell peppers and kiwi, and then of course citrus and pineapple. So A, B, C, and then vitamin D, you get it from fatty fish, from liver, from cheese, egg yolk, and the sunlight. Vitamin D directly prevents respiratory tract infection, and this is not some complimentary odd fellow who says eat medicine, eat food for medicine. This is the WHO's own findings. Vitamin D prevents respiratory tract infection, and it doesn't allow the immune overreaction, cytokine storm. Because remember, 90% of people who succumb to COVID don't die because their immune system is too low. The immune system goes crazy, it panics and goes into overdrive, what is called a cytokine storm. And the body is unable to control this. Vitamin D controls the cytokine storm. And then Z, of course, for zinc, which you get in beans, nuts, in oysters, whole grain, red meat, and chicken. It strengthens metabolism, it strengthens immunity, and it strengthens healing. And the sense of taste and smell, which is impaired in COVID, is increased by zinc. So you have the A, B, C, D, and Z of immunity, which you can, which is good enough.
Gosh.
One behind the virus, the vaccination.
Kira, I don't even know how to say thank you to you. And we haven't even asked you much of the questions that we had all planned to ask you. Some of our guests had asked questions, which unfortunately we don't have the time to ask you. As Soraya said, I think we will have to have you back at some point, and perhaps a bit better reception with your Wi-Fi on your end. But if you can send us a note on what you said today, I tried to jot some of it down so we could post it on our Wisdom Wednesdays page for our viewers and our listeners, especially your A to Z, and also, you know, the pharmacy in your kitchen. I tried to jot some of it down, and I'm going to post it on Wisdom Wednesdays. Please take a look. If I'm wrong in anything I've said, please correct it, because I have no knowledge. I'm just trying to feed off of yours. So on that note, guys, we have come to the end of another very, very interesting show. Thank you to Selvi for recommending you. to be on this show. And most of all, from Soraya, Fazana, Kamini, Selvi, and myself, thank you very much. I can't say enough about how much we appreciate your input on this show. And as the first guest on the show and the honorary woman, as you said, we are very, very pleased to have you tonight. Good night to our viewers.
Thank you very much. Appreciate very much the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we will have you back again. I promise you that much. So on that note, good night.
If he wants to.
No, we're not giving him a chance.
Yeah,
So,
you got to come back, Terrell.
yeah.
This was
So good
so
night.
invaluable.
Yeah,
Yes.
good night and God bless to all our viewers. Stay healthy in these terrible times, but stay positive. And what Tyrrell said, you know, get enough sunlight, get enough fresh air, get water into your system, get enough sleep. And, you know, maybe you will see a change in your lifestyle and how you deal with today's, you know, COVID situation and the stressors of jobs, etc. Thank you. Good night. And join us on the 21st for our next show on Wisdom Wellness. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Terrell.
Thank you.